Lena was brushing her teeth late in the evening when her phone suddenly buzzed on the sink counter, breaking the quiet of her small apartment. The sound wasn't loud, but in that still moment, it felt sharp enough to cut through the silence completely. The bathroom light above her flickered slightly, casting a soft, unstable glow across the mirror, as if even the room itself was unsettled by something unseen. She barely reacted at first, assuming it was just another normal notification from social media or a group chat that never stopped sending messages at the worst times. But when she finally turned her head and looked at the screen, everything inside her stopped. The name on the notification was impossible. John. For a few seconds, Lena didn't move at all. She didn't blink, didn't breathe properly, didn't even realize the toothbrush was still in her hand. Her mind refused to accept what her eyes were showing her, like reality itself had suddenly bent in a direction it was never supposed to. John wasn't someone who could be calling or texting her. Not anymore. Not for 3 years. John was dead. Her hand slowly lowered toward the sink as toothpaste foam dripped off the brush, hitting the porcelain with a soft sound that felt unusually loud in the silence. The notification stayed there, glowing faintly, unchanged, as if it had no intention of disappearing. It wasn't a missed call or a regular message. It was a voice note. From him. A strange heaviness pressed into Lena's chest, tightening around her lungs as her breathing became shallow and uneven. The bathroom suddenly felt colder, even though nothing in the room had changed. "No," she whispered quietly, shaking her head slightly as if refusing it out loud could undo what she was seeing. "That's not possible." But the notification didn't vanish. It stayed. Real. Persistent. Her fingers trembled as she slowly placed the toothbrush down, the soft clink against the sink sounding louder than it should have. She stared at the screen again, waiting for it to glitch, to disappear, to reveal that this was some kind of mistake. But nothing changed. Then another notification appeared. Same name, same contact. John. Lena's throat went dry as she slowly picked up the phone. The contact photo still showed him smiling, the exact same picture she had set years ago and never had the strength to delete. Seeing it now felt wrong, like looking at something that didn't belong in the present anymore. Her thumb hovered over the voice note, not pressing, not moving, frozen in hesitation as a strange warning feeling crawled up her spine. Something about it felt wrong, not just surprising. Wrong! Then the phone buzzed again. A message appeared beneath the voice note. "Play it!" Lena's heart skipped violently at the words. The bathroom suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier, like it was waiting for her decision. Even the flickering light above her seemed to hesitate, casting uneven shadows across the mirror. Her thumb slowly moved down, and she pressed play. At first, there was nothing but static, low, distorted, and unsettling, like a recording struggling to exist. Then came a breath, slow, controlled, followed by another, and then, finally, a voice. Calm, clear, familiar in a way that made her stomach twist. "Why didn't you tell them what you did?" Lena froze completely. Her entire body went still. Her hand lost strength around the phone. And for the first time in 3 years, John's voice was speaking again. The bathroom light flickered violently, and her reflection didn't blink back for a split second. A new message appeared instantly. "You still remember, don't you?" The phone brightness suddenly dropped. as if something inside it was dying. Lena remained frozen for several seconds after the voice note ended. The bathroom felt different now, no longer just small and quiet, but heavy, like the air had thickened around her without permission. Her fingers were still locked around the phone, but her grip had weakened slightly, as though her body was slowly disconnecting from her own control. John's voice lingered in her head, not fading like normal sound does, but echoing, repeating the same sentence over and over again. "Why didn't you tell them what you did?" Her throat tightened painfully. "No," she whispered again, but her voice sounded weaker this time, less certain. She slowly lowered the phone from eye level, staring at the screen as if it might explain itself. But it didn't. The message was still there, the voice note still open. No signs of error, no signs of hacking, just impossible reality. Another notification suddenly appeared. Lena flinched so hard she nearly dropped the phone. A text message. Same contact. "You heard me." Her heart started beating faster again, uneven and sharp. She took a step backward out of instinct, bumping slightly into the bathroom counter behind her. Her mind scrambled for explanations. Hack, prank, glitch, anything. But none of them felt real enough to stand against what she had just heard. John's voice wasn't just similar. It was exact. Every pause, every breath, every calm tone he used when something serious was wrong. Her memory of him suddenly felt too close, too fresh, like he wasn't supposed to be gone at all. The phone buzzed again. Another message appeared immediately after. "Play the next one." Lena's breathing grew uneven. She looked down at the screen and only now noticed there was a second voice note sitting below the first one. She hadn't seen it before. Or maybe it hadn't been there before. Her fingers trembled slightly. "No," she whispered again. But her thumb moved anyway. She tapped it. Static filled the speaker again, but this time it was deeper, more unstable, like the recording was fighting to exist. Then came sound. Rain. Heavy, constant rain hitting something hard. Then footsteps. Fast. Uneven. Someone running. Lena's stomach tightened immediately because she recognized the rain. That night. The memory came without permission. Cold streetlights, wet pavement, a distant argument she couldn't fully hear anymore. Her breath caught in her throat as the audio continued. Then her voice came through the recording. "I didn't mean to. Please." Lena stepped back sharply. "That's not me," she whispered instantly, shaking her head. "That's not how it happened." But even as she said it, doubt began to creep in. The recording continued. A second voice entered. John's voice. Closer this time. Strained, controlled, but breaking at the edges. "You pushed me." The audio cut off abruptly. Silence. Lena stood still, staring at the phone like it had turned into something dangerous. Her pulse was loud in her ears now, louder than anything else in the room. Her breathing quickened as she tried to hold on to her version of that night, the official version. The one she told herself, the one she told everyone else. An accident. That was what she remembered. Wasn't it? Another message appeared. "That's not how you remember it, is it?" Lena shook her head slightly, as if trying to physically reject the thought forming in her mind. No, that's not true. But the bathroom felt quieter now, too quiet, like something else was listening. Then came a knock from inside the apartment. Lena froze completely. The sound was soft, but unmistakable. Not outside, inside, somewhere deeper in the house. Her eyes slowly shifted toward the hallway beyond the bathroom door. Nothing moved, but the silence that followed the knock felt heavier than the sound itself. Then her bedroom door, visible down the hallway, was slightly open. It had been closed before. She was sure of it. Her phone buzzed again. "You locked the door that night?" Lena's chest tightened sharply. Another knock echoed again, closer this time. The bedroom door creaked open a little wider on its own. Her phone lost signal instantly. A new message appeared. "Look outside." Lena stood frozen in the bathroom doorway, staring down the dim hallway as the silence inside the apartment stretched unnaturally long. The knock had not come again, but its absence felt worse than the sound itself, as if whatever caused it was now waiting instead of retreating. Her phone vibrated again in her hand, snapping her attention back down instantly. "Look outside." Her stomach tightened immediately. She didn't move at first. Her body refused to obey the instruction, as if something inside her was resisting the idea of seeing whatever was waiting beyond the walls of her apartment. But the message remained on the screen, glowing faintly, persistent and calm, as if it already knew she would obey. Slowly, Lena stepped out of the bathroom. Each step toward the living room felt heavier than the last. The apartment lights were still on, but they no longer felt comforting. They felt exposed. Every shadow in the corners of the room seemed sharper now, more defined, as if the space itself was becoming aware of her attention. The phone buzzed again. Now. Her breath caught slightly. She reached the window. For a moment, she didn't pull the curtain. She just stood there, staring at it, feeling an unexplainable pressure building in her chest. Then finally, she reached out and pulled the curtain just enough to see outside. At first, there was nothing unusual. The street looked quiet. Dim streetlights, empty road, still air, normal night. Then she saw it. A car, parked directly in front of her building. Engine off, lights off, completely still. Too still. Lena frowned slightly, trying to remember if it had been there earlier. She couldn't. Something about it felt wrong, like it had appeared without her noticing when it arrived. Then, suddenly, the car's headlights turned on, bright, blinding against the darkness. Lena stepped back instinctively, her heart jumping violently. Inside the car, she saw a movement. A figure sitting in the driver's seat, completely still, except for the slight turn of the head. It was watching her. Her phone buzzed again immediately. "You see it now?" Lena's breathing became shallow. Her grip on the phone tightened until her fingers hurt. She tried to convince herself it was just a coincidence, just someone parked outside, but nothing about it felt normal anymore. Then the car engine started, low, slow. The figure inside turned its head more clearly toward her window, not rushing, not panicking, just aware. Another message appeared. "He's been waiting." Lena stepped backward away from the window, her pulse rising sharply. Her mind began to spiral between logic and fear. None of this made sense. None of it should be happening. John was dead. The voice note was impossible. The car outside felt like another layer of that same impossibility pressing into reality. Her phone buzzed again. "Don't turn around." The message made her freeze instantly, because at that exact moment, she realized she was no longer looking at the window. She was facing the center of her living room, and something in the apartment felt different. The air had changed again, heavier, closer, like she was no longer alone. Her breathing slowed without her permission. Another message appeared. "You always panic like this." Then, "Just like that night." Lena's mind snapped. The memory hit harder this time. Not fragments anymore, but sensations. Cold rain, shouting, wet asphalt under her feet, a voice calling her name. John's voice, but not calm, not controlled. Her chest tightened painfully as her body reacted before she could stop it. Slowly, she turned. The living room lights flickered violently. The phone screen in her hand went dark for a split second. And in that brief darkness, a whisper came from directly behind her. Soft, clear, her name. Lena spun around instantly. Nothing was there. But the bedroom door down the hallway was now fully open. She was certain it had been closed. Her phone buzzed again. "You finally looked." Her breathing turned uneven as she stepped back, trying to process what was happening, trying to anchor herself in something real. But the apartment no longer felt stable. It felt like something was shifting inside it, adjusting to her awareness. Then her phone opened another voice note on its own. Rain. Heavy rain. Then chaos. Then John's voice, closer than before. "You left me there!" Lena staggered backward slightly, her vision blurring at the edges. "No, that's not true," she whispered. But her voice cracked. The memory inside her head no longer felt solid. It felt edited. Another message appeared instantly. "Tomorrow, I'll show you everything." Outside, the car door opened. Slowly, footsteps began moving toward the building entrance. Lena stood frozen in the center of her apartment as the final message lit up her screen. "You won't escape it." Then the voice note from 3 years ago reopened itself automatically. Her Wi-Fi disconnected. The apartment fell into deeper silence, and the headlights outside turned on again. Lena hesitated for a moment, then pressed play. Rain, chaos, her voice screaming, "I didn't mean to! Please!" Then John's voice, "You left me there!" Silence followed. Then one final message appeared. "Now you're remembering." The bedroom door creaked wider behind her, and inside the doorway, something stood, barely visible, but real enough to change everything. Her phone switched to live camera mode by itself. The screen showed Lena standing behind herself, and the figure in the doorway took one step forward. Lena stood completely frozen in the center of her apartment, unable to process what she had just seen on her phone. The screen was still lit, still showing the live camera mode that had activated on its own, but her mind refused to focus on it. Every part of her attention was locked on the bedroom doorway down the hallway. Something was there. Not fully visible, not fully defined, but undeniably present. The air in the apartment felt heavier now, like it had condensed around that doorway specifically, as if the space itself was bending toward it. Her breathing was shallow and uneven. She wanted to move, to step back, to run. But her body didn't respond the way she expected. It felt like her instincts and her fear were no longer aligned. Her fear wanted escape. Her instincts wanted understanding. And neither allowed her to stay still for long. Then the phone in her hand vibrated again. A new message appeared over the live camera feed. "Don't be afraid." Lena shook her head slightly, whispering under her breath, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But her voice lacked conviction. The apartment didn't feel like hers anymore. The silence wasn't empty. It felt occupied. Every small sound, every faint creak of the building structure felt intentional now. From the hallway, the bedroom door creaked slightly wider. No footsteps, no visible force, just movement. Lena took a small step backward without realizing it, her heel brushing against the edge of the sofa behind her. The contact startled her slightly, grounding her for half a second, but the relief didn't last, because the phone buzzed again immediately. "You're remembering it wrong." Her stomach tightened painfully. A memory tried to surface again, but this time it didn't come as fragments. It came as emotion first: panic, confusion, fear. Then visuals began to follow. A road, wet asphalt reflecting dim streetlights, rain hitting her face, a voice calling her name, John's voice, but distant, strained, not the calm version she heard in the recordings. Her breathing became uneven again as the memory pushed harder. "No," she whispered, pressing her fingers against her temple as if she could physically hold the memory back. "Stop!" But it didn't stop. The phone buzzed again. "Look at him." Lena's eyes slowly lifted toward the hallway again. The shape in the doorway had moved slightly forward, still not fully visible, but closer. Her mind struggled to define it properly, as if focusing too hard would make it clearer. And that was exactly what she was afraid of. Then the live camera feed on her phone flickered. For half a second, the image changed. Not the room, not the hallway, something else. A road at night, rain falling heavily, a figure lying on the ground. Lena gasped sharply and dropped the phone slightly before catching it again, her heart slamming violently against her chest. "No, no, no, no," she whispered rapidly, stepping back further into the living room. The camera feed switched back instantly to her apartment, but the image lingered in her mind. The road, the body, the rain. Another message appeared. That's where it happened. Lena shook her head harder now, tears of confusion forming in her eyes. I didn't do anything," she said, but her voice cracked halfway through. From the hallway, the figure took another step forward. This time, the sound of movement was faint. Real. Lena froze instantly. The apartment lights flickered again, but this time, they didn't stabilize quickly. Instead, they dimmed slightly, casting the entire room into a darker, more unstable atmosphere. Shadows stretched longer across the walls. Her phone buzzed again. "You were the last one there." Her chest tightened painfully. Another memory surfaced, but clearer now. She saw herself running. She saw John's voice shouting her name. She saw a struggle near the edge of the road, but every time she tried to focus on what happened next, her mind resisted it, like something inside her refused to let her see the full truth. Then, another voice note opened automatically. Rain again. Louder. Closer. Then John's voice. Not calm, not distant. Right there. "You left me there." Lena stumbled back, shaking her head violently. "No, I didn't," she said again. But now even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. The voice note ended abruptly. Silence returned. But it wasn't peaceful silence. It was waiting silence. Then the phone lit up again. "Turn around." Lena froze completely. Her entire body went rigid. She didn't want to. She didn't move. But behind her, something shifted again in the hallway. Closer. Very close now. Her breathing slowed involuntarily, like her body was bracing itself for something it already knew was coming. Then, another message appeared. "If you don't, I will." Her fingers trembled violently. Slowly, she began to turn. The living room lights flickered one final time. The phone screen dimmed, and the apartment fell into near darkness. A soft sound came from behind her, a breath, close enough to feel. Lena stopped turning halfway, her entire body shaking now. Then, a whisper, right behind her ear, her name. Lena! She didn't finish turning. The phone in her hand suddenly switched to live camera again. And this time, it showed her already facing something that wasn't visible in the room. The camera feed zoomed in on the empty hallway, where something was standing just outside the frame. The voice note replayed itself automatically. "You left me there." And the apartment door slowly began unlocking on its own. Lena stood frozen in the middle of her apartment, unable to turn, unable to move, unable to fully process the whisper that had just brushed against her ear. Her entire body felt locked in place, as if even her breathing had become something she had to consciously fight for. The apartment around her was no longer just dark. It felt compressed, like the space itself had tightened around her presence, shrinking with every second she stayed still. Her phone was still in her hand. The live camera feed remained active, but she didn't dare look at it properly anymore, because something about it no longer felt like a tool. It felt like a witness. From the hallway behind her, nothing moved. No footsteps, no visible shape. But the air had changed again. Heavier now, closer, as if whatever had been standing there was no longer keeping distance. The silence wasn't empty. It was focused, intentional. Then her phone buzzed. She flinched violently. A new message appeared. "You heard me!" Her throat tightened instantly. Lena swallowed hard, her eyes still fixed forward, refusing to turn around completely. "This isn't happening," she whispered. But her voice sounded weaker now, like it was losing its authority even to herself. Then another message appeared immediately after. "Look at the camera." Her fingers trembled as she slowly lowered her gaze to the phone screen. The live feed flickered slightly. At first, it showed the empty hallway behind her, but only for a moment. Then the image shifted. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. A shape. Standing just outside the edge of visibility, not fully in frame, but close enough that the camera seemed to struggle to focus on it. Lena's breathing stopped for a second. "No," she whispered again, shaking her head. "No, no, no." Then the feed flickered back to normal. Empty hallway again. But the damage had already been done, because she had seen it, or thought she had. Her phone buzzed again. "You always needed proof." Lena's hands tightened around the device, her fingers trembling so hard she nearly dropped it. Her mind was breaking between two states now, what she saw and what she was trying to convince herself she didn't see. Then a voice note opened automatically. Rain. Heavy again, but different this time. No longer distant, close, very close. Then John's voice, clearer than before, not calm, not distorted, right inside the recording. "You ran!" Lena's eyes widened instantly. Her breath hitched. The audio continued. Footsteps. Her own breathing in the background. Then her voice again, shaky, panicked. "I didn't know. Please." Then a sudden crash sound. Silence. And then John again. "You left me there." The voice note ended abruptly. Lena stepped backward instinctively, her heel hitting the sofa again, almost causing her to lose balance. Her mind was no longer just confused. It was actively resisting the information being forced into it, because it didn't match what she remembered. Not fully, not anymore. Another message appeared. It wasn't an accident. Lena shook her head harder now. No, it was, she whispered, but even she could hear the uncertainty growing in her voice. The apartment lights flickered again. This time, they didn't fully recover. They stayed dim, weak, like something was draining power from the space itself. From the hallway, something shifted again. A soft sound, not footsteps. More like movement that didn't need sound to exist. Lena's breathing became shallow as she slowly lifted her eyes without turning fully. The hallway looked darker than before, thicker somehow, like the darkness itself had condensed into something more solid. Then her phone buzzed again. "You're afraid to face me." Her stomach dropped, because that message didn't feel like text anymore. It felt like someone speaking directly to her. From inside the apartment, she slowly raised her eyes, and finally, she turned her head just slightly toward the hallway, enough to see the edge of the doorway. Something was there, not fully visible, but blocking part of the darkness, a silhouette that didn't belong to the shape of the room. Lena's breath stopped completely. Then, her phone lit up one final time. "Say my name." Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. From the hallway, the figure moved forward just a fraction, and the apartment door behind her clicked, unlocking, slowly, on its own. The door chain slid open without anyone touching it. Her phone switched to front camera automatically, and Lena saw herself smiling, even though she wasn't. Lena stared at the front camera screen of her phone, her entire body going rigid as her own face appeared on display. At first, it looked normal, just her reflection captured through the front camera in the dim light of her apartment. But something about it felt wrong immediately. Not physically wrong, not distorted, just off. Her expression wasn't matching her awareness because she wasn't smiling. Yet on the screen, she was. A soft, calm smile stretched across her face, too subtle to be natural, too controlled to be accidental. Her eyes looked focused, but not on the phone, not on the room, as if she was looking at something, or someone, that wasn't part of the camera's view. Lena's breath caught in her throat. "No," she whispered, shaking her head slowly. "That's not me." But the image didn't change. Behind her reflection on the screen, the hallway was visible again, darker than before, heavier. And now, unmistakably closer to the camera's edge, something stood within it, not fully visible, but closer than before. The phone suddenly vibrated violently in her hand, snapping her attention away from the screen. A message appeared. "You did smile that night." Lena's chest tightened instantly. Her memory flickered. Rain, cold air, a streetlight buzzing above a wet road. John's voice shouting her name, but different now. Not calm, not controlled. Lena's vision blurred as the live feed on her phone completely changed. It was no longer showing her apartment, no longer reflecting the dim living room or the shadowed hallway where the figure had been standing. Instead, the screen now displayed a night she did not want to remember clearly. A wet road glowing under weak streetlights, rain falling heavily, distorting everything it touched. Her breathing stopped completely as she realized she wasn't looking at a recording. She was looking at that night, the night John died. Her fingers trembled violently as she held the phone closer without fully understanding why. The scene on the screen shifted slightly, as if responding to her attention. The rain was louder now, more intense, and the camera angle, impossible as it seemed, began to move as though it was following her own memory rather than recording it. Then she saw herself, standing in the rain, not running, not leaving. Standing. Lena's chest tightened so violently she nearly dropped the phone. "No," she whispered, shaking her head repeatedly. "That's not what happened. I left. I ran." But the screen didn't agree with her. On the live feed, her past self was visible, closer now, trembling under the rain, facing someone on the ground. John. He was there, lying near the edge of the road, barely moving, one hand weakly lifted as if trying to reach her. The image was unstable, flickering between clarity and distortion, but the position was undeniable. He wasn't standing. He wasn't arguing. He was down. Lena's breathing became shallow and uneven as her mind tried to reject what she was seeing. "No, no, no," she whispered, stepping back instinctively, but her body no longer felt fully coordinated. It felt like her reaction was arriving too late for what her eyes were processing. On the screen, her past self took a step closer to John, then another. John's voice came faintly through the audio. Not angry, not calm. Weak. "Lena." Her entire body froze at the sound of it. The rain on the screen intensified, distorting the image further, but the scene remained consistent. John was on the ground. Her past self was standing over him, and the moment stretched unnaturally, as if the memory itself was refusing to move forward. Then a new angle appeared on the phone, a perspective shift. Lena realized with horror that it was now showing her face from that night, her past expression. And she wasn't crying. She wasn't running. She was shaking, but not in fear alone. Something else was there, something unreadable. Her voice from the past echoed through the audio. "I didn't mean to." John's voice responded immediately, strained, broken. "You pushed me." Lena's legs weakened slightly, forcing her to grip the edge of a nearby table for support. "That's not true," she said out loud, but her voice lacked strength now. It sounded like she was trying to convince herself more than the room. The screen flickered again, and suddenly the scene shifted. The moment before impact. Everything slowed. John stepping closer, her moving backward, a sudden struggle, a hand grabbing her wrist, her voice screaming something unclear through the rain. Then, a sharp movement, a stumble, and John falling backward toward the edge of the road. The screen froze on that moment. Silence filled the audio for half a second. Then John's voice came through one last time. Not accusing, not pleading, just final. "You let it happen." Lena dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a sharp crack, the screen still glowing faintly in the darkness of the apartment. Her breathing was now completely unstable as she stepped back slowly, her eyes fixed on the phone as if it might continue showing more without her touching it. But something worse was happening now. The apartment itself felt different. Heavier, like the memory had leaked into it. From the hallway, the silhouette was still there, but now it felt closer, more defined. And for the first time, it moved in a way that matched what was on the screen. Slow, deliberate. Lena shook her head rapidly. "No, this isn't real. This isn't real," she repeated, but her voice was breaking now, losing control. Her phone buzzed on the floor. A final message appeared on the cracked screen. "You never left." The bedroom door behind the silhouette creaked open wider. And then, a voice came from the hallway. Not from the phone, not from memory. From inside the apartment, right behind reality. Lena. She didn't turn immediately, because she already knew. The truth was no longer coming. It was already here. The silhouette stepped fully into the light, and it looked exactly like the version of her from the phone. The voice note replayed itself automatically. You let it happen. And Lena realized the apartment door had been open the entire time. Lena stood motionless as the silhouette in her hallway slowly stepped into the faint light spilling from the living room. And for a moment, her mind refused to assign meaning to what she was seeing. It looked like a person, human-shaped, familiar in outline, yet wrong in a way she could not immediately explain. The apartment felt completely still now, as if even the air had stopped moving to witness what was unfolding. Her phone lay cracked on the floor, still faintly glowing, replaying the last message in a loop. You let it happen. The voice no longer felt like it belonged only to the device. It felt like it was inside the room itself. The figure took another slow step forward, and then stopped. Not rushing, not threatening, just present. Lena's breathing was shallow, uneven, her chest rising and falling in short, controlled bursts that did nothing to calm her. Her eyes locked onto the figure, trying to make sense of its shape as it finally entered more light. At first, it seemed like her mind was tricking her, filling in gaps where there shouldn't be clarity. But the longer she stared, the more the outline sharpened. It was her. Not just someone like her. Her. The same face, the same posture, the same stunned stillness reflected in her own eyes, but not matching the fear she felt inside. Because this version of Lena wasn't afraid. Her expression was calm, almost detached, like she was observing something instead of experiencing it. Lena shook her head slowly, stepping back instinctively until her back hit the edge of the wall. No, she whispered, barely audible. That's not possible. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if studying her reaction. Then, in the same voice that had come through the phone earlier, John's voice, she heard it speak again. But not from the floor this time, from the figure. You never left. Lena's entire body went cold. Her mind scrambled violently, trying to break the situation into something logical, something explainable. But every explanation collapsed before it could fully form. Her memories of that night were no longer stable. They were layered, shifting, overlapping, each version contradicting the last, running, staying, falling, pushing, watching. None of them stayed consistent long enough to feel real anymore. The figure took one more step forward, and the apartment lights flickered one final time before stabilizing into a dim, unnatural glow. The cracked phone on the floor suddenly switched screens again on its own. The live feed returned, but it wasn't showing the past anymore. It was showing the present. Lena saw herself standing in the apartment exactly where she was now. And in the same frame, the figure standing in the hallway. Only now, the feed wasn't separating them. It was combining them. The image began to overlap, her reflection and the figure merging slowly on screen, like two versions of the same moment collapsing into one. Her breathing quickened. "Stop," she whispered, but her voice felt distant, like it belonged to someone watching, rather than someone inside it. The phone buzzed one final time. A new message appeared across the cracked display. You chose what to forget. Lena's eyes widened slightly, A final memory surged forward, not fragmented this time, but complete. The road, the rain, John's voice calling out, her standing over him. But now, there was something new in the memory, something she had never allowed herself to see before. She hadn't run. She had stayed, not out of courage, not out of guilt, but because something had already changed before the fall. The argument hadn't ended. It had escalated. And in the final moment before everything broke, John hadn't slipped. He had been pulled. Lena gasped sharply, stumbling slightly as the memory hit her fully for the first time in 3 years. "No," she whispered, shaking violently now. I wouldn't." But the figure in the hallway stepped closer again, now standing just a few feet away, close enough for her to see the expression clearly. And it wasn't anger, it wasn't revenge, it was recognition, like something had finally been confirmed. The phone on the floor played one last voice note automatically. Rain. John's voice. Soft. Final. "You remember now." Silence followed. And then the figure spoke again, not from memory, not from the phone, from right in front of her. "Now say it properly." Lena's lips parted slightly, but before she could respond, the apartment door behind her slowly began to open wider on its own, revealing the dark hallway outside, as if something was now waiting beyond the apartment too. And the final message appeared on the cracked screen. The figure stepped fully into her space, and Lena realized it wasn't copying her anymore. It was replacing her. And the voice of John came one last time. "You didn't lose me. You became this."